revolt of 1857 was the first expression of organized resistance against the British East India Company. It began as a revolt of the sepoys of the British East India Company's army but eventually secured the participation of the masses. The revolt is known by several names: the Sepoy Mutiny by the British historians, the Indian Mutiny, the Great Rebellion by the Indian historians, the Revolt of 1857, the Indian Insurrection, and the First War of Independence by Vinayak Damodar Savarkar. Causes of the revolt. Let us discuss the causes of this revolt. Political cause. First, the political causes of the revolt were the British policy of expansion through the Doctrine of Lapse and direct annexation. Rani Lakshmibai's adopted son was not permitted to sit on the throne of Jhansi. Satara, Nagpur and Jhansi were annexed under the Doctrine of Lapse. Jaipur, Sambhalpur and Udaipur were also annexed. The annexation of Awadh by Lord Dalhousie on the pretext of maladministration left thousands of nobles, officials, retainers and soldiers jobless. This measure converted Awadh, a loyal state, into a hotbed of discontent and intrigue. Social and religious cause. The rapidly spreading Western civilization in India was alarming concerns all over the country. An act in 1850 changed the Hindu law of inheritance, enabling a Hindu who has converted into Christianity to inherit his ancestral properties. The people were convinced that the government was planning to convert Indians into Christianity. The abolition of practices like sati and female infanticide and the legislation legalizing widow remarriage were believed as threats to the established social structure. Introducing Western methods of education was directly challenging the orthodoxy for Hindus as well as Muslims. Even the introduction of the railways and telegraph was viewed with suspicion. Economic cause. In rural areas, peasants and zamindars were infuriated by the heavy taxes on land and the stringent methods of revenue collection followed by the company, which eventually resulted in losing the lands that they held for generations. Large number of sepoys belonged to the peasantry class and had family ties in villages, so the grievances of the peasants also affected them. After the Industrial Revolution in England, there was an influx of British manufactured goods into India, which ruined industries, particularly the textile industry of India. Indian handicraft industries had to compete with cheap machine-made goods from Britain. Military causes. The revolt of 1857 began as a Sepoy Mutiny. Indian sepoys formed more than 87% of the British troops in India but were considered inferior to British soldiers. An Indian sepoy was paid less than a European sepoy of the same rank. They were required to serve in areas far away from their homes. In 1856, Lord Canning issued the General Services Enlistment Act, which required that the sepoys must be ready to serve even in British land across the sea. Lord Canning. Charles John Canning was the statesman and Governor General of India during the Indian Mutiny of 1857. He became the first Viceroy of India in 1858. The important events during his tenure include the Mutiny of 1857, which he was able to suppress successfully, passing of Indian Councils Act 1861, which introduced portfolio system in India, withdrawal of Doctrine of Lapse, which was one of the main reasons of Mutiny of 1858, introduction of Code of Criminal Procedure, enactment of Indian High Courts Act, Indian Penal Code 1858. Immediate cause. The revolt of 1857 eventually broke out over the incident of greased cartridges. A rumor spread that the cartridges of the new Enfield rifles were greased with the fat of cows and pigs. Before loading these rifles, the sepoys had to bite off the paper on the cartridges. Both Hindu and Muslim sepoys refused to use them. Lord Canning tried to make amends for the error and the offending cartridges were withdrawn, but the damage had already been done. There was unrest in several places. In March 1857, Mangal Pandey, a Sepoy in Barrackpore, had refused to use the cartridge and attacked his senior officers. He was hanged to death on 8th April. On 9th May 85, soldiers in Meerut refused to use the new rifle and were sentenced to 10 years' imprisonment. Centers of the revolt. The revolt spread over the entire area from the neighborhood of Patna to the borders of Rajasthan. The main centers of revolt in these regions, namely Kanpur, Lucknow, Bareilly, Jhansi, Gwalior, and Ara in Bihar. Lucknow was the capital of Awadh. Begum Hazrat Mahal, one of the Begums of the ex-king of Awadh, took up the leadership of the revolt. In Kanpur, the revolt was led by Nana Sahib, the adopted son of Peshwa Bajirao II. He joined the revolt primarily because he was deprived of his pension by the British. The victory was short-lived. Kanpur was recaptured by the British after fresh reinforcements arrived. The revolt was suppressed with terrible vengeance. Nana Sahib escaped, but his brilliant commander Tatia Tope continued the struggle. Tatia Tope was finally defeated, arrested, and hanged. In Jhansi, the 22-year-old Rani Lakshmibai led the rebels when the British refused to accept the claim of her adopted son to the throne of Jhansi. She fought gallantly against the British forces but was ultimately defeated by the English. In Gwalior, after Rani Lakshmibai escaped, she was joined by Tatia Tope and together they marched to Gwalior and captured it. Fierce fighting followed where the Rani of Jhansi fought like a tigress but died fighting to the very end. Gwalior was recaptured by the British. In Bihar, the revolt was led by Kunwar Singh, who belonged to a royal house of Jagdishpur, Bihar. Suppression of the revolt. The revolt of 1857 lasted for more than a year. It was suppressed by the middle of 1858. On July 8, 1858, 14 months after the outbreak at Meerut, peace was finally proclaimed by Lord Canning. Let us understand through this chart the places of revolt, the Indian leaders who led the revolt, and the British officials who suppressed the revolt. In Delhi, the revolt was led by Bahadur Shah II and was suppressed by British officer John Nicholson. In Lucknow, the revolt was led by Begum Hazrat Mahal and was suppressed by Henry Lawrence. In Kanpur, the revolt was led by Nana Sahib and was suppressed by Sir Colin Campbell. In Jhansi and Gwalior, the revolt was led by Lakshmibai and Tatia Tope and was suppressed by General Hugh Ross. In Bareilly, the revolt was led by Khan Bahadur Khan and was suppressed by Sir Colin Campbell. In Allahabad and Banaras, the revolt was led by Maulvi Liaquat Ali and was suppressed by Colonel Onsell. In Bihar, the revolt was led by Kunwar Singh and was suppressed by William Taylor. The question arises, why did the revolt fail? The reasons of the failure of revolt are: first, limited uprising. Although the revolt was fairly widespread, a large part of the country remained unaffected by it. The revolt was mainly confined to the Doab region, Sindh, Rajputana, Kashmir, most parts of Punjab. The large princely states Hyderabad, Mysore, Travancore and Kashmir, as well as the smaller ones of Rajputana, did not join the revolt. The southern provinces did not take part in it. There was no effective leadership. The rebels lacked an effective leader. Although Nana Sahib, Tatia Tope and Rani Lakshmibai were brave leaders, they could not offer effective leadership to the movement as a whole. Limited resources. The rebels lacked resources in terms of men and money. The English, on the other hand, received a steady supply of men, money and arms in India. No participation of the middle class. The English educated middle class, the rich merchants, traders and zamindars of Bengal helped the British to suppress the revolt. Results of the revolt. End of the company rule. The Great Uprising of 1857 was an important landmark in the history of modern India. The revolt marked the end of the East India Company's rule in India, establishment of direct rule of the British Crown. India now came under the direct rule of British Crown. This was announced by Lord Canning at a darbar in Allahabad in a proclamation issued on 1st November 1858 in the name of the Queen. The Indian administration was taken over by Queen Victoria, which in effect meant the British Parliament. Religious tolerance. It was promised and due attention was paid to the customs and traditions of India. Administrative change. The Governor General's office was replaced by that of the Viceroy. The rights of the Indian rulers were recognized. The Doctrine of Lapse was abolished. The right to adopt sons as legal heirs was accepted. Military reorganization. The ratio of British officers to Indian soldiers increased, but the armory remained in the hands of the English. It was arranged to end the dominance of the Bengal army. To conclude, we can say that the revolt of 1857 was an unprecedented event in the history of British rule in India. It united, though in a limited way, many sections of Indian society for a common cause. Though the revolt failed to achieve the desired goal, it sowed the seeds of Indian nationalism. If you want to know about any other topic, please leave it in the comment box so that we can come back with it. If you have liked the video, please like, share and subscribe. Thank you.